My recent series on the brain included some of the world's best optical illusions. They were probably the most popular bits, so I've decided to bring them all together into one video. 30 optical illusions that have been discovered and devised by psychologists and others over the last 150 years. Optical illusions fascinate me because they're an amazing demonstration of the fact that we don't see the world how it is, we see the world how our brain perceives it. We instinctively trust our eyes, but of course it's our brain that does the processing of visual information. So please sit back and enjoy the experience of 30 of the world's best optical illusions. Let's begin with the Lilac Chaser. This illusion is over 20 years old and was created by Jeremy Hinton. It's a visual illusion that demonstrates colour adaptation. If you follow the dots around, you'll notice that the discs are simply disappearing for a split second. But if you focus on the plus sign in the centre, you'll see that the gap has been replaced by an after image of the opposite colour, in this case green. That image isn't actually there. Our brain has made it up. If you stare at the cross for over 20 seconds, you may experience a phenomena called Troxler's fading, where all of the dots disappear, seemingly mopped up by the green dot, which doesn't even exist. I'll leave it running for another 10 seconds. Here's another example of Troxler's fading. Stare at the dot in the centre. The blue ring will eventually disappear. This visual illusion affects visual perception. Part of this illusion is to do with the construction of the eye, but part of the phenomena is due to misinterpretation by your brain. Spinning dancer. It's one of the most stunning visual illusions. Whether the spinning dancer is spinning clockwise or anti-clockwise depends entirely on how your brain is interpreting the image. This illusion derives from the lack of visual cues for depth. The crazy thing about this illusion is that it can switch directions at any moment. Sometimes looking away and then back at the screen can trigger this switch, but other than that, you've got no control over it. Once you see the spinning dancer switch directions, it's not the video that's done that, it's your brain. I'll keep it running for 20 more seconds. If it hasn't worked for you, rewind it and have another go. Roger Shepard's tables. These tables by Roger Shepard are an example of geometrical illusion. They are stunning and the very best example of its type. What would you say is the longest table? The tabletops are a pair of identical parallelograms, and our brain interprets them as objects in three-dimensional space. This one clearly looks longer and thinner than this one. They are, however, identical. I can show graphically by moving the large tabletop over, and I can even use a ruler to show you that they are the same. If you don't believe me, pause this video and compare the length of your finger to both examples. Here's two examples of the Hermann grid. In this first one, devised in 1870, your brain gets confused and puts blobs in the intersections. If you look directly at any individual blob, it disappears. The scintillating grid version was developed 120 years later. Dark dots pop up and disappear rapidly at random. That's why they call it scintillating. This is an example of illusory motion. Stare at this image. It's clearly moving. Now pick one individual dot and stare at it. You've made the image stop moving. This is due to the cognitive effects of interacting colour contrasts, along with shapes and position. This is a YouTube video that you can control with your eyes. The Cathy wall illusion. These horizontal lines are perfectly level and straight, but that's not how your brain is interpreting it. The crazy thing is though, if we use exactly the same image with colours of lower contrast, your brain can make sense of it. It was named the cafe wall illusion by Richard Gregory in 1973. A member of his laboratory team noticed the effect on the wall tiles at their local cafe. Here's Richard in 2010 visiting that exact cafe. The impossible trident. It's got 3 legs at the bottom, but that makes no sense when you look at the top of the object. Our brains just can't make sense of this, which is why it's called the impossible trident. Canizar's triangle. How many triangles can you see? I'll give you 5 seconds. The answer, of course, is 0. There's no triangles. Our brain has just made them up. The Checker Shadow Illusion was published in 1995 by Edward Edelson. Your brain is telling you that tiles A and B are different colours. They are in fact exactly the same colour and shade. Your brain can see the shadow and clearly expects a white tile to be in the space marked B. I'm going to slide the B tile now out of the shadow and put it next to A. I haven't changed the colour of that tile. Your brain has. Which is the longest horizontal line? I'll give you 5 seconds to work it out. Yeah, you've guessed it. They're all the same. Motion blindness. Stare at the flashing green dot. The yellow dots will eventually disappear. They're still there on the video, but your brain will be blind to them. Which is the longest yellow line? The one at the top or the one at the bottom? I'll give you 5 seconds to work it out. They're both the same. Your brain is making that top one bigger as it perceives it as further away. Here's the Ebbinghaus illusion. Which orange circle is the largest? I'll give you 5 seconds to work it out. Yep, you guessed it. Our brain got it wrong again. They're both the same size. The Sander illusion, named after German psychologist Friedrich Sander, who published it in 1926. Which diagonal line is the longest? This one or this one? I'll give you 10 seconds to work it out. You may not believe me, but the lines are in fact identical in length. Our brain is getting confused about these lines within the distorted parallelogram. To prove this, you can pause the video and measure it on screen, but I'll also disassemble it for comparison. You do need to trust me here. I have not changed the length of these lines. Your brain has. I'll leave it on screen for another 10 seconds to see if you can make any sense of it. This is the Fraser spiral illusion. It's named after British psychologist Sir James Fraser, who published it in 1908. Your brain is telling you that you're looking at a spiral, but it's getting confused because of the pattern around it and misaligned parts. You are in fact looking at complete and independent concentric circles. Your brain is making up that spiral. Try following the circles around if you don't believe me. I'll give you 10 seconds to try to make sense of it. Penrose stairs, made popular by Lionel and Roger Penrose. Going clockwise, you're always going downhill in one continuous loop. This structure is impossible to recreate in 3 dimensions, but it well and truly fools our brain, which cannot make any sense of it. I'll give you another 10 seconds to imagine yourself walking down these never-ending steps. The herring illusion was discovered by German physiologist Ewald Hering in 1861. Are those red lines parallel or are they bowed? I'll give you 5 seconds to work it out. They are, of course, perfectly parallel, but we see them as bowed. When lines are presented in front of a radial background, our brain can't fully understand what's going on. The hollow face illusion perfectly demonstrates that we have an incredible inbuilt bias for seeing faces as convex. Over millions of years of human evolution, we've recognized faces as convex because they are, of course, convex. But if a face is presented as concave, something kicks in. We immediately convert it to convex. Such is the strength of this deep-seated cognitive bias. These computer-generated hollow faces play havoc with our brain. I'll leave this running for another 10 seconds. They're such fun to watch. The Jastrow illusion is named after Polish-American psychologist Joseph Jastrow. Any parent watching that struggled to despair with wooden train tracks knows exactly what I'm about to say. Which piece of track is the longest? I'll give you 5 seconds to work it out. They are, of course, exactly the same size, but that's not what our brain is telling us. There is no universally accepted explanation here as to why our brain is getting this wrong. The most common theory is that the brain gets confused because of the comparisons with an inner and outer radius. I'll digitally overlay the pieces of track to prove that they are in fact the same size. Now everything makes sense, until I put it back into its original place and it all goes wrong again. Oscar Reuterswärd created this 3D drawing in the 1930s, which does appear feasible. Initially, our brain seems to be only too happy to accept this image of triangles made up of cubes. Nothing to see here, so let's move on. But on closer inspection, we find that it plays havoc with our intuitive knowledge of physics. It cannot be physically recreated in the real world. I'll leave this on screen for a further 15 seconds to see if you can get your head around it. This is the stepping feet illusion. It's a motion perception phenomenon. These two objects are moving at an identical and constant speed, but their speed appears to vary dramatically. When the blue object is over a white stripe, the contrast is high, so we perceive its speed to be faster. Against black, it appears to go slower. The same process is repeated for the yellow image, but in reverse. I'll leave the incredible stepping feet illusion playing for another 10 seconds. This is called White's illusion. It's a brightness illusion. We've got two grey bars interspersed with black and white stripes. Which grey bar is the brightest? I'll give you 5 seconds to work it out. Both grey bars have in fact the same colour, luminance and opacity. The black and white stripes have interfered with our colour perception. The Zollner illusion was discovered by German astrophysicist Johann Zollner in 1860. Are the long lines parallel? I'll give you 10 seconds to work it out. The long long lines are perfectly parallel. The repeated short lines are either horizontal or vertical. These short lines give the impression that the long lines are not parallel. Your perception of even the short lines may also be distorted. Let me take away the short lines. Now your brain can make sense of it. Anyone that's watched an old spaghetti western will be familiar with the wagon wheel effect, where a spoked wheel appears to rotate in the opposite direction of its true rotation. The effect is caused because of the sample rate that our brain is using for processing. It's known as a form of temporal aliasing. Please allow me just 15 seconds to plug this channel. Very Nearly Interesting is a brand new channel and I need all the help I can get. Please hit that like button if you've enjoyed this video. That's how YouTube knows you like it and they'll show it to more people. And please consider subscribing. That way we might see you again. This is the Poggendorf illusion. It's a geometrical optical illusion. Straight black and red lines are obscured by the grey shape. Does the black line connect with the blue line or the red line if we were to reveal the connection? I'll give you 10 seconds to work it out. The black line is connected to the red line. Your brain is making assumptions on where those lines are going and getting it wrong. Your brain is perceiving an apparent position shift of the lower portion of the line. Hybrid images were developed in the 90s at MIT and Glasgow University. You can perceive them in one of two ways, depending upon how far you are away from the image. They are made from different spatial frequencies, causing your brain to interpret them differently. I'm going to shrink down each image to simulate the picture being far away, and I'll gradually increase the size, simulating the image getting closer. Viewing these images at full size will also work, but you would need to vary the distance you are away from your screen. Changing these images as they get closer to you. Your brain is perceiving them differently based upon distance. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed those amazing optical illusions. If you did enjoy it, please click that like button. That way more people will see it. And please consider subscribing. That way I might see you again. And please have a look at some of the other content on the channel. There's lots of interesting things on there. Well, very nearly interesting.